Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Yikes, the podcast where we all just shit out of our mouths.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
I'm Tyguy.
You're good at putting... Oh, okay.
Are you guys gonna? You guys have to introduce yourselves.
All right. You can go first.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Nick.
Yeah, and I'm Jacob.
Okay. Well, that was the podcast.
Come back next week for more exciting news coverage.
Roll credits. Okay, how about you guys actually introduce yourselves?
Okay.
Okay, good job, guys.
me and Jacob literally just looked at each other, just like, okay, like, why do you want us to introduce ourselves? Like,
So that people know who the hell we are and can match a voice to the name.
Oh, good point.
Oh yeah.
What
Okay,
the
okay,
fuck,
okay.
guys?
okay. Here's how they'll tell us apart. Okay, I'm Nick, and I've had twice as much sex as both you and Jacob combined.
Yeah, and I'm Jacob, and I hate my friends. So, there's that.
It's okay, Jacob. We all hate you too.
Oh, here you go, buddy.
Okay. Cool. Well, as per podcast protocol, do you guys have anything that you're working on that you want to plug before we get into the nitty-gritty here?
Actually, yes. Me and Jacob are currently in development for an exciting new adventure game.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's called Into the Night, and it's a story about a young girl trying to find her father.
Okay, do you guys have anywhere where people can look at progress?
Nope. It's happening.
All right,
Behind
cool.
closed doors.
Be ready.
Be ready when we post it on a black site, and there's just an executable. It's going to be called cheesepizza.exe. You just download that and run that.
Okay, bomb has been defused. We're okay with my mom now.
Who the fuck?
hey, don't worry, guys. We're good with his mom now.
Boy!
You can just cut that part out. Relax.
Do we have a guest on our first episode of Yikes?
How we do?
How do I defuse the bomb?
Yeah, Tyler, or what's your name? Alex? Alex, introduce yourself to the...
Wait.
Yeah, look at that.
Podcast.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Alex here.
He's a cutie with chest hair. Hit him up, ladies.
Sorry, I got adult stuff to do.
Okay, just for reference, he said that after taking a huge... Oh, he's still going. He's taking a really large... Oh, I guess he's just going to finish the bottle. Oh, nope. Okay. Is that wine good?
Oh,
Okay.
is he back on his...
Yeah, like...
He never stopped.
On his...
Well, the thing is, like,
alcoholic
before he
shit?
made dinner, he's like, I need to drink 5 beers, and then I have a cigar after dinner.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Well,
So, alright,
as
bye,
long
Alex.
as Alex
See ya.
stays a
Bye,
raging
Tyler.
alcoholic, then we should be fine. Alright, cool!
Alright,
Episode 1 of the podcast is gonna be about the Death Note movie!
It's all good, boys.
Wait, what? Oh, I thought he said the Femto movie. I'm like, what
No,
the
the
fuck?
Death Note movie, you dumbass.
Okay, let's give a bit of background on what this is for all of these non-weebs in the loop.
Alright, Death Note is a anime that came out in the mid-2000s-ish, like 2008, 2007, I don't really remember. And it is about a sociopathic Japanese student named Light Yagami, and he discovers that he gains the ability to kill anyone in the world with a magical notebook given to him by an emaciated piece of beef jerky with wings. And the plot is him enacting his own sense of justice and the moral quandaries and other esoterica that coincide with that plot. Now, in like 2015, 2016, it was like announced that there was going to be a American version of Death Note that was going to be a Netflix exclusive movie. And, I mean, everyone knew it was going to be trash, and lo and behold, it was.
Wow.
Okay, so I guess we're just gonna get right into the argument then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Personally, I don't feel that there's even an argument here.
Yeah, there's if you want like an argument for like how good this movie is, you literally can just look up the normal people scare me Death Note picture. It's a picture of the...
Oh, okay, so you're in the whole school of thought that because you don't like how they wrote Light, then it's a bad movie. Okay. I see. Okay.
Well, it's a bit more than that because you know what? Let's start. Let's pick like one thing to talk about in the movie so we have some sort of linearity to this.
Let's start with okay.
Let's start with light.
Let's get one thing off of the table here right from the get-go. And this is going to be like the main basis of why I think it's an okay movie. I'm not saying it's good.
Okay, right.
But it's not as bad as everybody says it is. And that's because it was never supposed to be a direct adaptation of the source material. Right from the get-go, it was never supposed to be a direct adaptation.
I understand
so
that.
So you have to.
No,
I'm not. This isn't me arguing with you. This is me
I know.
Giving context.
I agree. It's not supposed to be a direct adaptation because it can't be because it's in America, not in Japan. So right from the get go, it's not going to be like a faithful retelling of it. It's going to be its own thing. And my issue is not because it was readapted to that, although my issue is that it doesn't stand on its own as a movie.
Yeah, even as a standalone.
Okay.
I feel like it had
because when I watched it, I wasn't thinking like, oh, this isn't like the anime. This isn't like the anime. I was sitting there thinking like, if this was just a movie that I watched that I had like paid money to see like in a theater or something like that, like, is this worth the hour and 45 minutes of my time? And after watching it, I can honestly say that I don't think it is.
Okay. Why?
Okay. Well, me and Jacob have like a whole host of reasons, but I think we need to start somewhere. So I think a good jumping off point is Light's characterization. So if we ignore everything from the manga,
ignoring everything we know about the Light from the original anime/manga, even as a standalone character, I feel like he's not a good character.
Well, okay, we need a bit more than that. I think it's because I think Light's character is a good example of like the movie has a very confused tone. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to go for like that. To me, at least, it felt like they were trying to go for like that edgy humor that's sort of like tongue in cheek with death and stuff. But they don't execute it in a way that I feel worked because they didn't take it. They didn't take the death aspect and the people dying and the idea of justice like very seriously within the confines of the movie. So when a character dies, like when the first character dies, when he gets his spoilers, when the first character dies and he gets his head split in half by a ladder, it's a big gory scene, and I felt like I was watching like Final Destination or like a scary movie, like and I think it's because they didn't. You know what I feel like? Honestly, I feel like we're supposed to be talking about Light, and we're already like going down a rabbit hole. Like, I honestly feel that this movie was written like there was an actual like decent, somewhat script for it, and then it was like focus grouped or something like that, and then they decided that it wasn't like relatable enough or it wasn't marketable enough, and so then they changed it. Because there are scenes where like Light does something, or like he has interactions with his dad, or like even Mia. Right. Oh my god, I don't. Okay. Light first. So. There are scenes where like you can see like, hey, there's like some good writing here, like he has like there's potential, but then you have scenes where like when Light first meets Ryuk, he just starts like screaming and stuff.
Freaking out.
And the thing is like, I mean, yeah, if like an 8-foot tall demon showed up in front of me, it was like, hey kid, write this name in a notebook. Like I'd probably freak out too. But like it just like it was so weird watching that because like he's supposed to be like this calm, super intellectual, like, oh, I figured out all these things, and like
So that's the first thing is that
he's not smart. I don't think he's smart.
He was like, they didn't try to make him like he was in the anime.
Well, okay, hang on. No, not even that, because in the movie itself, the reason that one of the reasons that Al is investigating him is because he says that your kid is like super bright.
He's super bright.
Smart, blah, 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 but
there's a difference between being super bright and being super bright with a god complex.
Yeah, and the issue is I don't see the god complex. So when he starts going like, oh, like we can change the world, we can become a god, like it literally comes out of nowhere. Because up to that point in the movie, in like the 10 minutes that we had, like all we saw is he's like a semi-smart kid that helps people cheat on their homework, and he has some very watered down middling sense of justice, like, hey, don't bully people. Like, to me, like, going from that and like a very like Americanized, very like you know those stock movies about high school?
Right.
I felt like I was watching that with like a Final Destination twist, because it goes from being like that to like, oh, like I have a god complex and I'm gonna murder these people, and it was very confusing because the tone originally was very like more tongue in cheek, and then it tried to get really serious. But they're trying to have this very serious like plot and this very serious character while we're having these very gratuitous, violent scenes,
Right.
and where like he's like making out with his girlfriend, like, oh, what about this one? Ooh, what about this one? Like, it's just weird. Like you're watching, you're like, who? Like, what are they going for? Like, what is the message?
You really don't know what the movie is trying to be. There were points where I was just staring at the screen and I'm just like, is this supposed to be satire? Like, the one of the things that really jumped out to me was the scene where they're in the Ferris wheel, right?
Oh god, that's like not to the end of the movie.
It's towards the end.
Yeah.
When they're hanging from the Ferris wheel and both Light and Mia drop off of the Ferris wheel, and there's like some campy like romance song playing in the background, like, because
We'll try to focus on Light, otherwise we're
I know, but
yeah,
like,
because you keep mentioning Mia, and I keep wanting to like be like, oh, I have words about her, but
the point is just that like it didn't know what it wanted to be
from the get-go,
and it just really kind of shows, because it's like, am I supposed to be laughing? Is it supposed to be like,
am I supposed to be like
actiony and intense?
Like, as a filmmaker, you can sort of you can use visual shorthand and stuff to like kind of inform the audience, like, oh, this is the tone we're going for in this scene. I felt like there was like the director and the actor and like the producer were all fighting over what they wanted like a specific scene to be. So there's like three very jarring perspectives. You have like the tongue-in-cheek, like, death is kind of funny, we're going to play with that a little bit, tone. We have the very serious, murder is bad, and, your sense of justice is, like, illegal, and vigilantism. And then we also have, like, this weird, like, they're trying to do, like, a love story, but they also don't devote nearly enough screen time to make us care as audience members, or make it believable. And I'm trying to get this back to Light, because we keep kind of sort of, like, we're not really going down a rabbit hole, we're about to, and then, But like the bottom line with Light is, all throughout the movie, people are telling us he's brilliant, he's smart, and we don't see any evidence of it. And when we do, when what we're presented with that's supposed to be evidence, like that thing where like he's like, oh, I did this all in 2 minutes, like I figured it all out, like, and they tell us like after the fact, like it doesn't feel like, oh, Light's smart. I feel like the movie's telling us Light's smart, but I don't have any reason to believe the movie.
It just seems a little bit like a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah,
well,
it's like,
I would say that's more of a problem with the pacing of the movie.
Yes,
it's not leaving itself enough time to really show things rather than just say it. And I was gonna get into that's my biggest gripe with the movie. It's not the characterization or the plot or the campiness, because I fucking love how halfway through the movie it just changed into a really cheesy 80s flick.
Yeah, it was like, like, I feel like someone watched Death Note and was like, this would be a lot better if it was an 80s high school movie,
I mean, personally, I liked that. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
But to me, like, it didn't quite reach the level of camp or so terrible it's good. Like, it never got to that point, and I really wanted it to, because, like, 15 minutes in, I've watched the entire anime, I've read a good chunk of the manga, like, I know what Death Note is, and I was watching this, and I'm like, okay, this clearly isn't going to... I knew it wasn't going to be an adaptation going in, but, like, I was kind of hoping maybe it would be, and it's not, so I'm like, okay, maybe I can enjoy this as, like, a campy death fest, and it never really got there for me at that point. And, like, I like Descendants. That movie's awful, but it's really campy, so I like it. So, I like campy things. To me, I don't know what about it was. Like, there was no element in this movie that sort of jumped out at me like, oh, this is campy. And that could just be personal taste. And I'm trying not to compare it to the manga, like the anime, too much. But what you said with pacing is so true, because so much stuff happens. Like, if you, like, just look at, like, a plot chart of, like, what goes on in this movie, so much stuff happens in the span of, like, barely feature length. Like, this movie is barely feature length.
Yeah.
It's like an hour and 40 minutes.
I have a feeling that the entirety of this new story would have worked a lot better if instead of a movie, it was a series, like a Netflix series.
Yeah,
I agree completely. Give 40 minutes to each episode, give enough time to actually flesh out the characters and what happens.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I was kind of watching it and I noticed, I'm like, we're getting close to the end of the movie and there's like still quite a bit of stuff that they need to wrap up.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know. It seems like they tried to bite off a bit more than they could chew with like the time that they were given.
I think they just didn't have the budget. I honestly just don't think they had the budget. Because
it was a very big budget. If I can
It
recall, I
was?
think it was like 55
No.
million.
Oh,
Really?
Really?
Like, that's the other thing.
Are you
was
kidding
that-
me? I thought this was like a lower budget project.
No, this was straight up a passion project. Nobody puts
Oh,
55
God.
million into a anime
Yeah.
movie, like a live action anime film.
You know what's so shitty too is that like usually Netflix movies and Netflix shows can get away with doing things you couldn't normally do in like something on television, like some of the stuff they do in like The Defenders and like their other Netflix shows are like that's not stuff you see on television just because Netflix allows you to have more freedom because it doesn't have those very strict like constraints on like, what you can and can't show. Yeah. So I was really hoping that like this movie would really like take
Wow,
Death
man.
Note and like elevate it. And okay, I think now's a good.
Which it tried to do.
It tried and it fell flat on its face.
Oh my god. This is going to be
just-
really hard to have a discussion with you of every time I bring up a point, it's just immediately met with, yeah, but...
Well, I mean, like, that's just how I feel, Brenda.
I'm totally joking, by the way.
Yeah. But, okay, like, I know that, like, this could easily just be, like, a 3-hour rant about, like, it isn't like the manga for this, and this. But I do want to say that I think a large reason why the story Death Note worked so well and, like, it was so fun to watch is because it was told from, like, a Japanese perspective. And it was a Japanese story. And so when you had it in, like, set in America, like, I was very, like, oh, I don't know, because America sometimes... Okay, like, America has, like, a history of trying to, like, Americanize things.
Mhm.
And, like, to me, like, it's just stripped all of the culture and the things that made the show so interesting and innovating. Like, I guess not innovating is the right word, but,
Well,
like...
see, actually, I'm kind of confused as to what you mean in terms of, like... just recently, Alexis and I, we went through Death Note. Like, we finished it the night before we watched the movie. And the only real difference I saw in terms of culture was the sense of justice.
Right, but that's, like, the whole point of the show. Like, that's, like, what it's built on.
Yeah, but... And then,
that's the central theme. Because... In America, we value vigilantism. Like we edify it with people like Batman and Superman and like our superheroes and stuff. Like, and so, like I guess it just doesn't work. I just feel like it doesn't work because like we already have like things that explore those things that are more detailed and better. And so Death Note had the opportunity to sort of take that in a different direction because Batman's like he's the one that's like fighting crime at night and like putting bad guys in jail. Whereas Death Note is like it's like the extreme of that. Like it's literally like if you're a bad person, you die.
Right.
And then the whole quandary of the show is like, is that the right thing? Like no one should have the power to do that. Like that's the whole thing that drives the tension in the plot. So like I think what I meant was when it stripped the culture is like I'm not Japanese, obviously. So like I think it's because in Japan, like it's just. Oh God, I don't even have a good reason to be honest. I shouldn't have even said anything. Like I was like, ooh.
See, I wanted to touch on that point a little bit. The whole difference in sense of justice. That's why, like, obviously, the light in the movie is meant to be more so of a typical American high school student, like a modern, instead of a Japanese mastermind student.
Oh, you know what? That's what
I
remember what I was gonna say. I remember what I was gonna say. Okay, you finish your thing and then
Oh, I was gonna say like we see Light halfway through the movie, like once he's actually the chase scene with L, when L pulls out the campy ass fucking Nerf gun out of the suitcase that we don't even know what it does. We don't get to see it work. It just has a lot of fancy light up pieces of plastic on it.
And then he just fires it into the air a couple times.
But the moment that I found really interesting was when L actually catches up to Light, and L's sitting there, and he's telling him, like, he's freaking out at him, and Light's like, listen, I can't stop it. Nobody can stop it. Like, I'm just gonna fucking pull it out and show you how it works. Because in this, like, in the Japanese anime, the whole reason why the story keeps moving along isn't because of a developing sense of justice. Like, Light is his character doesn't really change.
Yeah, he's a sociopath with a god
Yeah,
complex.
the only thing that changes are his circumstances. The reason why we get into the whole battle of wits is because L is constantly surveilling him and thinks that he's Kira from day one.
Yeah, and like Light in the anime goes out of his way to challenge L because he has to win, because he's a megalomaniac. He can't let someone like that like challenge him and not get away with it.
Like that's part of his sense of justice, is that if I'm God of this world, nobody should be allowed to challenge God.
Yeah, there's a lot of imagery in the anime too, where it's like Light and like the image of like Christ, where he's like got his arms spread and there's a bunch of like
exactly.
Like and like so what I was saying earlier was like a Japanese high school student is not even remotely the same as an American student.
They're not at all.
Yeah, right. Like I don't think that's a stretch at all. Like, but I think that's because like we've all been in high school. I think, right? Not you, Jacob. How is the dumpster where you got your diploma from? Like, how are they doing over there?
Oh, you mean Lance Cruz High School?
Rare to get it.
Shout out! Okay, but like, I guess to get back on track, like in Japan, you have 3 standardized tests that determine your entire future. And so, I mean, at least here, like, if you don't get a good grade on your ACTs and your GPA is not flawless, you can still go to college as long as you have, like, the means to go. Like, if you have money or if you have, like, an opportunity to get, like, a scholarship or something, like... And I won't pretend to understand, like, how Japanese universities and scholarships work, because I don't. But I will say that, like, there's a lot more societal pressure on Japanese students to perform to be the best they can be, to, it's tied up with like family values and honor. It's like a huge thing, and like I'm not here to give a disambiguation about that because I have literally no clue. But I think it's because like Light sort of represents like this like idealized like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like an extreme. He's like a hyperbole almost. He's so smart that he's bored with everything. Like in the first scene in the anime, when the Death Note falls from the sky and lands in the field, he's literally not paying attention in class because he's way too smart to be there.
Yeah.
So. And that works, I think, because he's sort of like, in a way, he is a god, because he's transcended that very crushingly rigorous system that Japanese students are subjected to. And so, if you have someone who's at that level, who sort of has escaped that system and is at that point, like, what's left for them to do if they're so intelligent, and they're so bored, and they're so detached from their emotions and their humanity? And, like, that's a really interesting story, and that's really fun to watch. But, if you reverse that, and you have, like, an American perspective, we don't even, like, high school sucks, but it's not even, like, we're lucky to be here. Honestly, like, can you imagine having 3 tests determine your entire future? Like, if you don't get into a university, you basically have to go to, like, a trade school or something, and that's it. Yeah. Whereas here, minimum wage sucks, but, like, you can at least get by. You can at least have more options here, I think. I don't think that's, like, too bad of me to say, Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, that was my point. There it is.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
What I'm interpreting that point as is that the situation that the Japanese Light is put in is like way more realistic to have him turn into the character that he turns into rather than the American retelling that this movie gave us.
Oh, yes, thank you. You beautiful person, you just summarized everything I said.
Which, like, I agree with that.
Yeah,
like, the reason why it works so well from that, the Japanese version of the story is because it's all believable if you have a decent understanding of how schooling works over there.
And even if you don't have like a rudimentary understanding, like I think the show does a good job. Yeah. The show does a good job of like setting it up because Light is bored in study hall. Like it's very well established that he's smart. Mm-hmm. Also, we get those little scenes. Oh, we're already starting to compare it to the anime. Oh well, this is gonna happen anyways. There's that scene where he like puts the piece of pencil lead in his door, and that's how he knows if someone's been in his room or not. Like I was like. I guess it's unfair of me to criticize the movie, but I was waiting for some kind of demonstration of this Light's intelligence, the American Light.
See, that's another thing I was going to get into, and I feel like that's just another problem with the pacing. We weren't given time to see that because they had to get from point A to point B within the time they were given to make the movie.
Yeah,
I feel really conflicted about, or not. I feel conflicted. It seems that Light's motivations just aren't really there because, like. In the beginning, he's given the Death Note, and like Ryuk has to coerce him into using it. He's just like, "Hey kid, write it happen and see what happens."
Yeah.
And then after that, he continues writing names in because he's like, "Oh, I can make the world a better place." But then as soon as L is onto him, he's just like, full cards on the table. This is a burden I have to bear, and I don't want to do it. But he keeps writing names in the notebook. But he also says that he doesn't want to lose it because then somebody else worse than him might get it.
Oh, and
you know what? Like, he doesn't want it, but he does, and he continues to use it. But it's a curse and it's a burden.
So
Ryuk,
Ryuk doing that in the beginning is literally like a way to take his character and sort of like. For the audience at least be like, well, it's not really Light's fault. He was sort of coerced into doing it, like by Ryuk. And like, I don't know. To me, that just seems like they're trying to sort of paint it like almost like if you're pushed to a certain point and if you believe something, like you'll do this. But like, I genuinely don't think that anyone in that situation would do that. Like, if an 8-foot demon showed up in front of you and like how that scene was framed, and he's like, throwing shit around the room, you're screaming, you're crying, he's like, here's a magic notebook, here's how it works. Like, are you gonna actually listen to him? Like, I don't know. Like,
well, okay, I'm just gonna start with, I actually think that whole dynamic that we have with Light actually going through, like, the thought process of, okay, maybe this actually isn't something I should be messing around with. I think that's interesting, because that's something we didn't get to see in the anime. Because
they don't go anywhere with it.
Well, Nick, I'm getting there.
Oh my god.
In the anime, we didn't get to see that because as soon as Light gets the notebook, he is immediately like, okay, I'm just going to be God. I have the power to kill criminals, I'm going to be God. Whereas in the movie, he gets coerced into doing it by Ryuk, which I think that's another interesting dynamic, is they actually made Ryuk like a villain almost. Like, he's so bored that he's willing to fuck with the human world. Not saying it's really interesting, because they didn't really go anywhere with it.
Right.
But it would have been interesting if they had more time to work with it.
Yeah. I think that's like the crux of the whole movie, is that they have good ideas, but they just don't have. Like, they just don't have the room to flesh them out. And even if they did have the room, I don't think the studio had the writing chops to tackle something like this, because this is a very interesting, nuanced story.
Right. I disagree. I think the studio is fully capable in terms of the directors and the crew working it. I just don't think they. See, you're right. It probably was focus tested, and it was probably changed.
Yeah,
but there's enough good ideas in there to where if they were given full creative reins, they probably could have made something way better.
Well, I think it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like that's something that people say when there's a movie like this that like starts in a really good place, but it ends in like a garbage fire. And they're like, well, if the creators had more control, like, that's true, but
I hate to pull one of these comparison things, but look at what happened with the Samurai Jack new season.
Oh, yeah.
It started off fucking phenomenally. The first 3 episodes were insanely good.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then the head honchos were like, hey, you don't get a full season. You get 12 episodes. And they told them that way, 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 way far down into the line of production. So,
now, we probably shouldn't talk too much about this because I have very strong feelings about the finale there too. But I agree. Like, I don't think that showed enough time to be what it was, and I think it's the same for Death Note. But I also think it's kind of unfair to be like, well, if they had full creative freedom, it could have been better, because we don't know that for sure.
We don't know
the product we're given is what we got, Like, we could speculate all day about whether, and like, I think it's interesting. I feel like the movie tried to tackle too much. Like, there's too many things going on. There's too many moving parts.
Not only that, because what you were saying about how they started exploring the thought of like him being like, well, like, this is dangerous and this feels more of a burden. Yeah, that's actually really cool.
Wait. Are you about to go into that? Because Nick interrupted me halfway through my thought there. I didn't get to finish that.
What else is new? What do you think was going to happen when you put me on this podcast?
Yeah, I know. I've already been interrupted like 20 times, and I think this is a bad idea. But it's fine.
Oh my god.
No, I was going to get there. Like, Ryuk coerced Light into doing it, and that first scene, he did it because a fucking deadly monster told him to. And
also we had like a stock high school bully doing stock high school bully things.
He had the whole bully dynamic.
Ugh, God.
And then, like, see, here's another thing we didn't get enough time to see it. He had the whole gripe against his dad for not taking complete and utter, like, fucking martial law into his hands with the guy that killed their mom.
Well, yeah, because it's illegal.
When he's given a tool to do it, he goes through with it and he does it. And then he sees that he can kill criminals with it. And then he starts thinking, okay, I have something here. When I was watching the movie, I felt like the turning point for Light was when Mia told him to kill his dad. And then that's when he...
Okay, actually this is... Yeah, no, okay, never mind. Ignore me.
Oh, okay. Like, when I was watching, that's how I interpreted it. Like, Mia was like, well, hey, your dad's after you. You have to kill your dad. And Light's like, what the fuck? No, he's my dad. I can't kill my dad.
Is this your
and then Mia's like...
want it.
And then Light's like... Or Mia's like, well, if you're not going to kill your dad, then I guess I'm just going to be Kira. Which,
okay, actually...
I hate Mia, but... Anyways.
Oh, okay. I need to talk about Mia. I have never seen... in my entire life, genuinely, I've never seen a more shallow character than this one. Like,
yeah.
I could stand in a puddle of her and my feet would not get wet. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, her writing was
not
good.
And like I could go on a whole tirade about like female characterization or whatever, but it's not even that. Like, she had nothing. She was nothing. She was whatever the plot needed her to be at that given point. Need some eye candy so Light has a hot girlfriend? There you are. Need her to be some kind of secondary antagonizing force before the third act? There you go. You know what I mean? Like,
Nick, have you ever seen the Emoji Movie?
Oh, God. Why?
Have you ever seen the Lego Movie?
The Lego Movie's good.
This is your Wild style.
But
This is your emo girl side character in a modern movie.
She's not even that goth or emo, though. She's just a white girl with brown hair.
Didn't you see her smoking cigarettes at cheerleading practice?
With a massive death boner, you're right. Like,
she is so emo. She was smoking cigarettes on school property.
Oh my God. How is... And also, like, can we talk about how, like, the first, like, actual genuine interaction between Light and Mia is, like, I'm sitting in the cafeteria, Light makes direct eye contact with her and just goes, I killed him. And then she's like, oh my God. And it's just like, okay, obviously she has...
They had the interaction before where he
got
the shit beaten out of him by
He got punched once by a bully, and then
I like thinking that Light Turner got the shit beat out of him. Let me have my headcanon, please.
Okay, fine. Headcanon that. But, like, also, do you remember that scene where, like, she was walking down the stairs, and he was walking down the hallway, and they made eye contact, he was, like, gonna wave at her, and then, like, some big jock guy, like, ushered her away, and we never see that jock guy ever again.
It made it seem like that was like her boyfriend.
Yeah, like that was gonna be like part of the plot, and it's like that was there for no reason. You know why that was
for the sake of making Light go, oh.
No, that was there for the sake of like, hey, what if Death Note was an '80s rom-com high school movie? Because, like, I swear to God, I've seen that exact same shot and that exact same, like, cinematography, like,
oh, God, that's in, like, every 80s high school movie.
No, yeah, of course. That's, like, and, like, I don't know if that was the same bully that got his head split in half by a ladder. I'm pretty sure it was a different actor, actually. Because I remember thinking when the bully that was beating up that random girl for, like, literally no reason, like, when he got killed by the ladder, I was like, is that the same guy that's, like, Mia's boyfriend? Because, like...
No, I don't think it was supposed to be the same guy, because obviously
the girl... just cut that.
The girl didn't like the bully either, but I agree, that scene really wasn't needed because they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, other than, oh look, Light has a crush on the hot girl. It's like, well, we know because this movie's super predictable.
That's another really good point, though, is like, after Light gets the Death Note and Ryuk is like, hey kid, write a name and then write a way to die. For someone who is kind of hesitant, it's just like decapitation.
I know.
How do you just go from like, wow, I'm super scared. This spooky guy is interrogating me. Oh, this book can kill people. Why don't we decapitate him? Like,
hey, wait, I don't remember actually. I don't remember. Did Ryuk say like if you write the method, that's how they'll die?
I think he just said like,
oh, he did. Okay,
write a way to die or something. Something just.
I think the line was like, why stop there?
Yeah, that's what it was. You're right. Oh my God! And then he's like, ugh. And like, here's the thing. I hated the gore. One, because it was like, I don't think gratuitous gore works unless it's serving a point, like, and it didn't serve any. Like when the guy gets stabbed in the neck with the steak knife,
Oh God, yeah.
and he just starts like spewing like he's chunky blood.
He turned into a bloodshot gun.
I know he was like a garden hose. I was like, I'm pretty sure like if you got stabbed in the neck, you wouldn't start like violently spewing blood out of your mouth.
That was awesome. I don't
like you would probably start like
what you're talking about. That was so
cool. It'd probably start like water falling out of your mouth, but I remember like that was the scene where I sort of I was like, okay, this movie obviously doesn't want me to think about anything, like because if they're trying to like, and the way they did the thing where the waiter like slips on the glass and they're making all these cuts to like the things that could be like the Final Destination death, like that's what it was. I was like, is this a Final Destination movie? Like seriously, like, and I think they focused too much on that because like. For all the time, for like however many seconds those death scenes were, we could have literally gotten at least, if you cut that all out, we could have gotten like one scene of like some kind of character development or some kind of show.
I feel like that was to make up for how that worked in the anime, actually, because they're like
we never like the simplicity in the anime because that wasn't the point of the story.
We never really get like we get to see what Light writes down in terms of his complex death, but we don't get to see how they happen. Like the whole scene with. You know how in the latter half when he gets the girlfriend who's the spokesperson for Kira, and Mello captures her and takes her semi like to the inside of the church.
Yeah.
And Light writes down like she kills Mello and then she sets fire to everything, including the truck, the church, and herself. But we don't get to see how she does it, and we're not like that's not something you would expect her to be able to do when she's fucking bare ass naked in the back of a semi. But they show up to the church and literally everything is on fire. The bricks are on fire.
The bricks. Okay.
I agree with your point. I feel like less time could have been spent on that and more time could have been put into other things. Because if I like I said, my one gripe with this movie is the pacing, and I'm really, really upset by it.
Yeah.
Because you guys are bringing up really good points that I completely understand, but I feel like this movie had way too many good ideas for what we actually got in the final product.
I mean, it's frustrating for sure. It's also frustrating too because it's exactly what you said. Like they bit off a lot. They had to cover the Death Note anime is how many episodes? 26?
37.
37, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But, if you think about it, though, this movie only covered what... It barely
got past, the first... Did L die? I don't even remember.
No, L didn't die.
They didn't even potentially killed Kira, maybe.
Okay.
When it cut, before to have the ambiguous ending.
Okay, you know what would have been cool? I mean, we could do this for hours, but, I think it would have been cool if we had started with, L... instead, because if you only have, well, maybe they didn't know actually, so I guess this is a good point, if they had more time or more knowledge of how it was going to be in post. I feel like if you had general knowledge that you had barely 2 hours to tell the story, you need to just pick something, one thing. You could have started with L and he's investigating this string of bizarre deaths that all coincide to this Kira character, and then we could have gotten something from L's perspective, which would have been really cool because
that would have been cool.
Yeah, or you could have started with Light, but you just the stuff they focused on was so annoying. They spent all this time developing the tension with his dad, and it doesn't really go anywhere other for Mia to be oh, you should kill your dad, and then Mia
and then at the end when his dad's just I found out it was you because I found the article about your mom's death in the newspaper. And that means that it must have been you because the first death was him.
Also, what really made me mad was
I'm willing to defend that one because that's just Light being careless. It's
yes and no.
You don't really have any other evidence besides the newspaper article. But then, L shows up and brings up a lot of good points against Light, right in front of his dad. And the other thing, too, is that Light didn't know who killed his mom, or at least that's what we're supposed to believe.
Wait, he didn't? In the anime. His mom didn't die in the anime.
No, I meant to say in the movie.
Oh, wait.
He doesn't know. He just knows that you should have put that guy away. If he knew who it was, why would he have to go grab the article? And
Because maybe he doesn't know like his last name or something.
Either that or the face, because the face was in the article.
Yeah, you probably need a face. You need like
because I swear when he's talking to his dad the first time about it, I swear he did
he
a name drop.
I'm pretty sure he name dropped because he's like that guy's still walking around and like.
I mean, if he did, I don't remember it.
And the other thing about it is, I mean, it just seems, I understand that, yeah, Elle brought up a lot of suspicion, but for his dad to be like, well, it's obviously you because of the newspaper. The newspaper was already in the house. Why does it seem that much more suspicious that it's in his room? Because
if your son's like an emo, edgy boy, like why, like it's not that far out of his character.
I mean, it's not like he went out of his way to find a newspaper in, like...
Okay, and Elle pissed me off in this so much, too, because, like...
Literally, he pulled out a fucking, like... The dad even said, like, I found the article from my case files. Like, even if you are a little emo boy, you don't just go digging through your dad's criminal records for fun.
He got it off of the kitchen table where his dad left it, because...
Yeah, he brought it up to his room, like, he didn't dig into his case files. That was on the kitchen table.
And the fact that his dad didn't... the fact that his dad didn't question the fact that he didn't bring it back to his case files.
Yeah, because that was, like... I remember he took the newspaper... Maybe it wasn't on the kitchen table, but he already had that newspaper before he became, like, Kira.
Yeah, it was just sitting downstairs.
Yeah, it was just sitting around in the house. Well, the other thing, what I was trying to say earlier was just that, like, Elle really pissed me off because he somehow knew that the first death was when the guy's, like, army saluted and got hit by a car.
Oh, yeah, and
like,
that's a little bit weird.
Yeah, like, that's weird, but, like, it doesn't really fit the modus operandi of, like, the other kills. And also, like, out of all of the murders that happen in America, like, year-round, how did you know that was the beginning of the murder? And we don't get any other evidence other than, like, I know it's in Seattle because that's where the first murder was. And it's like, okay, but how did you know that was where the first murder was? In the anime, because we're going to start comparing it, we're always going to be comparing it to it no matter how hard we try. Elle knew that Light was in that specific area because he was only killing people using, like, TV broadcasts from that area. So, while that might not be completely, like, airtight, I can believe it as an audience member. Right. But, like, with this, I'm like...
Well, because in the anime, you had more deaths to work with. Like, there wasn't any suspicion until a whole bunch of criminals started dying from heart attacks.
That too! Like, how many people did he... Well, he killed a lot, because they had the whole montage of him and Mia, like, making out and killing people, and then making out more, and, like, oh, how about this one? God! Like, okay, actually, can we talk about that real quick? Like, if you're gonna have a character like Mia, and you want it to be taken, like, in any serious way, and you want her to get, like, kind of, like, excited at the prospect of delivering, like, this twisted brand of justice, if you want that to be, like, a serious part of the story, you can't do that without developing her in some way, or at least making it, like, believable. Because, like, she goes from, like, standard stock high school love interest number 32 to I have a raging death boner and I'm going to be your, your fuck buddy because you're killing people. Like, I genuinely, and if they'd, like, built that up somehow, or if they'd developed her in any way before that, I would have been like, oh, okay, this makes sense. But it literally comes out of nowhere. She's like, what's that book? Then he's murdering someone, then she's trying to bang him because he's killing people. Like, you remember, it's literally a hard cut from, like, I killed him, to he takes him back to his house and they start making out. Like, I'm sorry. Based on the evidence I've been presented as a viewing member, this, like, no human behaves that way.
Right.
No person I know would do that. Unless you, take the time to develop her as a character and make that part of her. But they don't because...
Mia was just a mistake.
Oh, capital M. She didn't even, like... She existed to be eye candy and to do that thing in the third act where she's like...
Conflict.
Yeah. And then it's like... And then, like, they're trying to be like, oh, like, I think Light's, like, genuinely in love with her. Like, you can't have that and then also have him be, like, this... You know what? I think it was because they didn't really push the whole God concept thing. Right. They didn't give him a God complex. They just gave him they gave him a twisted sense of justice.
Really have all that much motivation.
Yeah, like, I don't really know the reason why he kept murdering people. Like,
one of the things I was going to say... Or wait, did I already talk about that? How even after, because you were saying that it was cool that they kind of went into, like, his doubts of using the power and his fear of it falling in somebody else's hands.
Yeah, that's
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was really cool, but the issue was, like, immediately after that scene, he still goes back to killing people, and it's like, well, is he really doubting himself that much if he's still just like, well, this thing is such a burden and maybe I shouldn't have it? I'll just write some more names in while I ponder. Like, it
Plus,
doesn't affect him at all, except for the scenes where he's like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, and talking to Ellen, being like, you don't understand what it's like to have this. It's a dangerous thing, and then just continues to like use it without any second thoughts.
Yeah, and also, like, in the show, like, he goes from murdering that one random bully, and then he shows Mia the Death Note, and then they kill that one, like, guy, and then it starts, like, what do you want to do with it? It's like this whole montage. It's like a 2-minute montage, like, barely, of, like, him going, we could be something greater. We could become God. And it's like, how do you go from committing, like, one murder and, like, avenging one person to God complex? They didn't, like...
They didn't give enough time.
They weren't
to
given
develop.
enough time. Or if, and the thing is, like, maybe if they had started with that, if they had clearly characterized Light as being a sociopath and having this God complex from the get-go, I might have believed it. But I just didn't buy it as an audience member.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, everything for me just comes back down to not having enough time. Light was never supposed to be the sociopath that he was in the anime. He was supposed to be, the high school kid with the twisted sense of justice because of his upbringing and his circumstances. And it could have been interesting if we had more time to... Bless you.
Oh, God. Sorry, everyone. Okay.
It would have been more interesting if we had more time to, like, see what sort of things he had to go through in life to end up thinking, okay, if I have this tool that can just kill people, what's going to make me immediately think to jump into it, or like to jump into using it for justice. In the movie, what we're supposed to put together is, oh, I can use this to kill the guy that killed my mom. I can also use this to kill criminals that are doing other bad things. But that's not really believable, or as believable as, per se, the anime, where Light is characterized right from the get-go as, I'm bored, I have power, I'm going to use this power to stop my boredom, but also use it for what I think is a good purpose.
I think that's why in the anime, when he meets Ryuk, he's not like screaming little girl, he's like, oh, you're here, because he understands Ryuk, because he's also bored.
Yeah. But that's not the situation that was written into the movie, which is like that part. That's not the problem. Is that it's a different situation. The problem comes from we don't get to see enough of what's happening behind the scenes, like we did with the anime. It's hard. It's hard to take, like you were saying earlier. It's hard to take 37 episodes worth of content and cram all of that character development and that plot development and all the fucking implied theorizing that you're supposed to do as a fan and cram that into barely feature-length film. That's why it would have worked so much better if we had a series instead of a movie. I was reading an article about the movie. It was like, we had an interview with the creators of Death Note, and here's what they had to say about the movie. And to my surprise, even though I really liked it, the movie, the creators actually said they really liked it too. Like, they, according to the interview, they were ecstatic with the direction that the movie took the lore and the characters, and they really hope to see more movies. And the director of Death Note said that there are more movies planned in the series. So what I'm hoping that we see in the upcoming movies is a better sense of script writing in terms of giving certain things more time to develop and more time to be shown on screen.
But, like, the thing is, like, it's not just the pacing, as I'm starting to... I think the problem is they tried to make Light a relatable character. I think that's what they were going for. I think we're genuinely supposed to... They're trying to make us relate to Light. And, like, in the anime, as we know, we aren't supposed to relate to Light. Light is above us. You know, that's how it's framed. But, like, in the show, they're trying to do that whole awkward, quirky nerd guy becomes badass, which has been done a bunch of different ways in a bunch of different movies. But I just think when you're dealing with material that is as dark, because it is dark no matter how the end product is, like, it is rather serious, you can't have something like that because we're not really supposed to be relating to Light, because I don't think there's a lot of people out there like, oh yeah, I have a god complex. I murder people. Like generally, like who knows? But like we're not supposed to relate to light. Like that's the whole point of the original story. And so I think the problem just stems not only from the pacing, but that they're trying to make Light this relatable character. We're supposed to kind of feel bad for him because his mom died and like he's getting bullied and his dad doesn't understand him. And he's kind of an outcast. But like, that's all well and good. But then you sort of like, oh yeah, and also he just murders people with a magic notebook.
The other thing to me is, like you were saying, they plan on making more, and they hope to. But if they planned on making more, then that just makes the bad pacing even more inexcusable, because it means that they could have cut certain things and left them to be in a later movie and done a much better job.
The sequels, the more movies were planned after the reception of the first movie came in. It wasn't like we're gonna write this movie to set it up for a cinematic universe. We're gonna write this as a movie, and then if it gets good reception, then we'll write more.
I genuinely think that movie was like focus grouped or something, and then they changed it because
that's what it seems like.
There's a skeleton of a good movie in there, but I mean, any movie, anything can have good bones. It doesn't matter. Like if the end result's still not great, it's gonna be not great. And even if it was focus group and they decided that Light isn't relatable or it's not a very marketable story, you could have at least upped the camp, the gore, the whatever to like an 11, and then it would have been really fun to watch.
It would have been,
because it never quite hits that point of so bad it's good or so camp like you're just kind of enjoying the ride. Because I wasn't enjoying the ride.
I really wasn't.
And I love watching bad movies. Heavy air quotes around the word bad.
That's one of the biggest things that's got the 50-50 reception, because I'm willing to chalk that down to personal taste. I loved it. I was on the ride for the whole time.
Well, I was laughing. I was laughing at some parts, but not because it was funnier because it was satire. I was laughing because just the acting and the situation that the characters were in were just so not based in the show's own reality. I couldn't take any of it seriously. And I couldn't have fun with not taking it seriously because they were still trying to be serious.
Also, that's respectable because that's how you interpreted it, because that's just your personal taste.
Okay, but
I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong here.
I mean, it feels
obviously that way. Like we agreed on before, the tone of the movie is all over the place.
Right.
But
I mean, is it personal taste if a movie has bad pacing, bad characters, middling visuals, and gratuitous amounts of violence for no reason? That's not what you were talking
about 2 seconds ago. That's not what we were just talking about. That's not personal taste.
I mean, we were
literally just talking about it.
You said personal taste was going along with the ride.
No, I said that no, I was saying my personal taste is that I like it when something's super duper duper campy and I can just enjoy the ride. But I couldn't do that. And and that's not related to what I was saying about the characters and the pacing. I was saying that was an additional flaw. I didn't like it for these objective reasons, and I also couldn't enjoy the ride because it doesn't match my own personal taste. And I agree, that's personal taste, but having bad pace and bad characters, that's not my personal taste. It's just a bad movie in those areas. If it has bad characters and had bad pacing, there's plenty of bad movies that I like, And Death Note isn't one of them because I couldn't enjoy the bad parts of it either. If Ryuk was more of a camp character, the gore was so ridiculous that I could just be okay, this is just gratuity and fun. But it never got to that point.
Right.
So I don't really see personally, I can't ride along with it because it's just not extreme enough for me. And I also don't think
it stands on its own as a good movie.
Exactly.
It is not a good movie on its own, and it's not a good movie in terms of just being able to shut your brain off and watch it for the fun, for just going along for the ride, or
because you can't really shut your brain off.
It's so bad, it's good.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was kind of curious about, it's been a while since I've seen the anime, but I can't remember it. The Death Note only affects people; it can't affect things, right?
I guess.
So at the end of the movie, with the whole thing with the Ferris wheel.
Oh yeah.
How?
Well, see, that's that's comparing the two. The
well,
rules
not even
of
that.
the rules of the
well, I
Death
think
Note
in
in
the
the movie are
established-
different from that in the anime.
Even
I think
the
there's
rules
merit
established
in the
right
movie.
from the beginning.
There's merit in comparing them though, because in the anime, what was it like? He could manipulate them like 12 hours before their death or whatever,
Like that.
and then in the movie, it was 2 days. And so, like, yeah, that's different, and the rules are different because they're different, like, universes, obviously. But I think it's a show of like how it's not really based as much, like it's not as believable because like you have 2 days. You can literally have that character do whatever you need. The plot you need, like there's no like constraints or restriction.
Basically,
2 days, like that's 48 hours. You can get a lot of shit done in 48 hours. So all these like dying characters just become plot devices.
right.
Whereas I'm not saying there's no plot
Especially
device in
towards
the
the
anime,
end.
but like at least I wasn't like, oh, he's got 2 days, he's gonna figure something out. Like
Yeah.
he only got 12 hours. That's a much smaller window. So it makes those scenes where like the character, the Death Noted characters are like when they're doing something, it's more intense. Like okay, he doesn't have as much time. Like what is he gonna be able to pull off in this time frame?
It adds more tension. Whereas in this, it's basically, especially towards the end, it's a Deus Ex Machina.
It's like a free for all. Like I'm like if you're at your climax and you're not even a little bit worried about your character, like I mean, at that point I know that Light's gonna survive because he's so smart that he's already figured out everyone else. But it's frustrating because we never get to see real evidence of that intelligence. Or at least
that's the point that we were talking about before. Is that we're told to believe that Light's the genius. We don't get to see him being a genius until that last part of the movie, which it doesn't help the movie at all.
It's very hollow because we don't
the movie.
Because like you said, like we only get like 2 perspectives max, whereas in the anime we're getting like 5, so we could see all the moving parts in action.
Yeah,
and it's very hard to do that with like a live action movie, I think, because like you have to get actors and sets and all that stuff, so you can't really do that whole dynamic that made the show so interesting to watch. Where like there's 5 moving parts and you're watching them sort of slot into place, and it's like this cat and mouse game. We don't really I didn't get that like cat and mouse feeling at all.
Definitely not.
It was just more of like a criminal on the run and a detective chasing him. Especially near the end when there was an actual chase scene.
As soon as he basically without actually doing it, he basically admitted everything. He didn't try to hide it at all. He was just like, maybe the person who has it doesn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
If he didn't use it, then somebody else would. Worse. I'm not saying
but
it's me, but like
it sucks all the tension out of that scene because you're like,
I personally I agree. I didn't like that scene that much either. I thought it was gonna be more like this is my one instance of comparing it. I thought it was gonna be more similar to the first cafe scene that we get with Light and L in the anime.
That was intense.
It was really intense. But in the anime, or I mean in the movie, it didn't. Like, the movie didn't set itself up to that point to have a cat and mouse game. Like, right when Light finds out that L is on his tail, like, we get him doing the thing with Watari, but other than that, there was never going to be a cat and mouse game, which, if they would have done it right, could have been interesting. But that's more akin to movie Light's sense of justice. Like, once he realizes that he can actually be prosecuted for his actions, his supernatural actions could have consequences.
Segue. We mentioned Watery. That's Hanzo Shimada. That's the same guy who does the voice for Hanzo. So,
for real?
Yeah, for real. So whenever he was talking, I'm like, oh, hey, Hanzo. So I will give the movie 1 star for casting, for having
the voice actor of the most annoying hero in Overwatch.
You shut your hell mouth right now.
Only right next to Widowmaker.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I really sing me a lullaby. I'm like, oh my god, Hanzo's gonna sing me a lullaby.
I honestly I really liked the dynamic with Watari and L in the movie. Which let's just get L out of the way. You mentioned before that you didn't like L in this movie, and for the most part, I really didn't either. I liked who they casted. I thought he did a good job getting what the movie thought they were doing with L down.
Well, he's a good actor, but he just didn't have a lot to work with.
At the end, they made L freak out. They made him emotionally break, and that's not the sense. Like, seeing him throughout the movie, we wouldn't think that he would do that because of how calm and collected he was with everything else. Yeah. And it's not one of those like cool twists because they didn't hint at it at all.
It just comes.
Okay, hang on. That's exactly the thing. The reason that he broke is because he was so attached to that to Watari, to his bodyguard.
To Hanzo.
He was so attached to Hanzo, but again, they don't really show any of the dynamic between the two to really make us
they kind of did.
How much it affects
Hanzo sings him a song once on a plane, like one time, and then he brings him candy occasionally.
Yeah, like it's the same problem that the movie has in a lot of other places. It does one or two things to imply basically a whole arc in the anime's worth of information.
Right.
And that's why, like, in the anime, I really liked L's death scene and how it was, like, right next to Watari, because right when Watari dies and, you know, the data gets wiped, he's not responding to L, like, that's where you see L freak out. But even then, he's still calm and collected because, you know, he's L.
Yeah.
And in the movie, he's L. He's calm and collected. He tries calling Watari one time and gets left on voicemail and immediately fucking pulls a gun on Light and starts chasing him through the streets. I thought it would have been cool if we would have had a scene where L emotionally freaked out. I don't think it was cool that we had the entire last 20 minutes of the movie where L freaked out. It made everything that L did throughout the movie not seem as impactful because in the end he's
like, they had the entire scene where he was just like, yeah, I don't use guns, they're too distracting, I don't kill people, and then like literally 40 minutes later or whatever, it's like, time to get a gun.
Well, that just reminds me of like the 2006 Daredevil movie where like Ben Affleck Daredevil is like, oh, I don't murder people, and he pushes someone into an oncoming train or whatever. Like, I'm not a murderer. I'm like, you literally just committed murder.
He pushes them into an oncoming train and then leaves a fucking burning Daredevil logo in the train station.
He's like, I'm not a murderer. I'm like, bitch, more reality. Like, okay.
God. You gotta give that movie props. That was like...
God.
That inspired emo superhero movies to come, especially...
You know what? You want to talk about, like, emo culture or whatever? I felt like this movie was written for that demographic.
I feel like that's where the focus testing comes in.
It was! Because when they flashed the Normal People Scare Me poster from American Horror Story, I lost all, like, I was like, okay, this is trying, and the reason I brought that up, like, at the very beginning, and the reason is because as soon as I saw that poster, I was like, there is a specific demographic they're trying to appeal to, and I am not part of it. And the issue with doing that is you lose the story, you lose the tension, you lose the characters because you're trying to fit all these pigeonholes that don't even fit the original story in the first place.
Oh, for sure. Like, there was even, like, taking into account everything that we saw in the movie, even Light's character, there's no reason for that poster to be there.
It's literally, and you know what? There's no reason for the freaking apple either. Like, what is that made me mad too. Because when I was watching
if they would have put one line in the movie where Ryuk goes, you know, Shinigamis love apples, that's all we needed in the anime, then we're like, oh, okay, it's quirky, he likes apples. In the movie, you just see him eat an apple.
And it's so funny because, like, I was so pissed because I knew from, like, the first 5 minutes that this was not going to be, like, an adaptation like I had hoped. It was going to be, like, its own thing. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Let's see what happens. And then there's that scene where he's in detention, the camera, like, swoops around and it zooms in on the apple real close. I'm like, oh my freaking God, really? I was like... And they're like, look, it's just like in the anime. And I'm just like, I wanted to shoot myself. I was like, are you kidding me? This is so stupid. Or the part where there was a really good meme about this where it was like Light in the anime. And then it's like, oh, Ryuk, you're here. It's like Light in the movie. And it's just like him screaming.
I saw that video. I still think that's unfair. Because it shows the entire scene from the anime. And then it shows like 5
Yeah, but like what? To be honest, what else is in that scene except Light screaming and then eventually getting coerced at the very, very end? Like,
well, Light gets to have the whole conversation with Ryuk where he's like, "I've been waiting for you."
Yeah, and then
I've been expecting you. But in the movie,
there's nothing comparable in the movie because he's just screaming until Ryuk gets him to like write a name in the book.
Well, that's what I was getting at. The screams went on for a really long time to show the practical effects. but
You want to talk about the acting or no?
the part that's comparable is Light has the conversation with Ryuk in the anime, and in the movie, he's basically shown firsthand what the Death Note can do, which, if they would have made the part where he was freaking out like a little baby boy just a little bit shorter, it would have been cool. But they made him scream for like 20 seconds.
I know, and like, I don't even know. Like, I really wanted to, like, I'm trying to only examine the movie from like character writing and like pacing and all that stuff, but like I really gotta like I really think Light was super miscast in this movie. Because the problem is like I'm again comparing it to the anime, but in the anime, Light is charismatic. You know, right. He has charisma. People like him. You know, there's a reason that we can understand why people like. In that sense, we can sort of understand him because he's faking it because he has charisma. This Light, I don't know what his character is, and I honestly think that if they had cast like someone else, maybe they could have done a better job. Because I feel bad because this actor wasn't really given a lot to work with, but what he sort of just did exactly what the paper said to do, and it was what the paper said to do was very poor.
If they would have casted somebody uglier, his character would have been more believable.
That is.
I'm being completely honest. If we're supposed to relate to the weird high school outcast kid, don't cast a cute teenage boy.
Well, here's the thing. He's not even that cute. Well, I have a very specific taste.
Okay, I was about to say that's personal taste right there.
Well, yeah, but like, see, Light in the anime is framed as like this really, really hot guy who all the girls want, but he's actually just empty on the inside because he's like got a god complex or whatever. And like Light in the show is like, it's like when you try to see like pass off Andrew Garfield as like geeky Peter Parker in like the Spider-Man movie, like I don't buy for a second this 25-year-old underwear model is a geek or an outcast in any way, you know?
Yeah.
Like they didn't go far enough with. You know what? They played it safe. That's what I think it is. They played it safe for this character. They didn't go too far in either direction. They played it safe.
They played it safe, but it didn't end up being safe because it didn't work out all that well.
Because that's the thing with playing safe. It didn't do anything. It didn't drive the story. It didn't make anything tense. He was just bland white guy that has daddy issues or something.
I'm also just kind of disappointed with the whole use of Ryuk because he wasn't there a lot. He was there to initiate Light using the Death Note. He pops in a couple times just to be like, "Hey, kid, you can always pass it off to someone else."
He's literally Ryuk is there to dump exposition.
All it is, yeah.
Ryuk is there to be the tech, because obviously Mia ends up being the villain.
Oh,
but Ryuk is there to be a villain in the movie, whereas in the anime, he's completely neutral.
He wasn't even he didn't even do that much to be a villain other than create the initial spark.
The most villainous thing he did, the villainous thing he did was like tell Light why stop there. That's the only case in the movie that I think he was a villain. Like,
no, he remember when all the FBI agents died and
that was Mia.
Light
that was Mia.
I'm getting there. Light talks to Ryuk and is like, "Did you kill all of those FBI members?" And Ryuk never says no. He laughs.
He also
very evilly.
Well, Oh, come on!
What a great role! Evil laugh.
That is such a reach. Okay, like he's laughing.
No, he's making him. Oh my god, you guys are not actually listening to me here.
We are. I just don't think that laughing evilly once makes you a villainous character.
I see. You didn't even let me finish that. You interrupted me with the. I couldn't finish my thought.
Okay, well, what's the rest of your thought?
Oh my god, I'm about to shove my whole fist up my own ass.
You said he laughed very evilly,
And then, right as I breathed to start the next word of my sentence, you both in unison go. So, I was gonna say the whole point of that scene, which moved way too quickly, by the way, was that it was Ryuk, instead of being neutral in the anime, he's trying to be played off as a very, very chaotic neutral. He never told Light that he didn't kill the FBI members because he wanted Light to turn on Mia, which he ends up doing anyways, so that scene was pointless. But it was supposed to be interpreted as Ryuk taking, like, because at the time we didn't know that he didn't do it. The movie implies that he did do it, so we're supposed to be seeing Ryuk as evil, like he's been throughout the rest of the movie.
But how
Also,
does that
the time
influence
where
Light to turn against Mia?
the time
That
where
just-
Light is like, you better not pull any shit on me, I'll write your name in the death note, and Ryuk's like, you can try, but I'll tell you right now, the most letters anybody's gotten to is 2. Like...
And, like, not to mention Light probably doesn't even know how to spell Ryuk's name.
Yeah, because
anyway.
he pronounces it as Ryuk.
I was like...
Wait, actually...
That also pissed me off.
Wait a minute. In
'cause,
that
like,
manner, somebody actually wrote "Don't trust Ryuk" in the note, death note.
Oh.
So what does he mean? The most anyone's got is 2. Somebody actually wrote his
another
name.
plot hole.
Yeah, that's just straight up a plot hole.
Plus, like...
Maybe
genuinely-
they wrote it on the instructions page, so it doesn't
Yeah,
count.
the instruction page is different. Like, Ryuk was supposed to tell you that in the second movie.
The instruction page is made out of loose leaf, so it doesn't work.
I think Death Note as a whole was just kind of bland. It didn't really go. I feel like it didn't go far enough in any direction, and it was trying
kind
to.
of stayed.
It just stayed like where it just stayed in its lane. It didn't try to do anything new or interesting. It didn't go very far.
It tried to do new and interesting
tried.
things. It just didn't go. It didn't develop on them. So it
it didn't
It would
push the.
start one thing and then just not really
I mean,
go anywhere with it.
Is it wrong of me to want a movie to really like push the envelope, especially a movie like Death Note, where
Oh, no, not at all.
yeah, like I felt like the movie didn't push the envelope because it was like trying to appeal to too many people instead of just telling its own story. Because there's so many scenes in there where I'm like, who is this for? I mean, it's not for me, clearly, because I'm not getting life from it. Like, and, you know, it's not campy enough or, like, gory enough or just ridiculously over the top enough to be like, oh, this is just a camp horror fest.
Right.
Like, so I'm just not sure who the movie was trying to be for, like, also, like, did anyone else think it was, like, really awkward when, like, all these characters, like, swear, but they'd only swear, like, once every so often? Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, you fucker. And I'm just like, I don't know why. I don't know what about it.
How else are you going to get that R rating?
I know, like, I
And
don't know.
also, when
I
they're
don't-
taking the pictures at the school dance and they're literally just flipping off the camera, it's like, you're at a school dance.
like this
I
is-
don't...
You know what this? It's like a self-insert. That's what I feel like. This is my edgy self-insert. Like, as I wish, like it's edgy, like high schooler fantasy. You know. I think this was written by like an 8th grader who wanted to be like an edgy 16-year-old, and then they watched Death Note, and then they like wrote a fanfic about it where it was like them and this girl in their class they had a crush on named Mia, who secretly has like a boner for dead people. And then, like, they submitted the script to, like, a student who was like, hey, we should turn this into a movie and throw $55 million at it. Hey. I see Hikaru, I see you.
Okay, so I guess we can give a final verdict here. Let me ask you guys this.
Okay.
With all criticisms in mind, would you be willing to hop on the bandwagon and say it's the worst movie to come out this year?
I don't think it's the worst movie to come out this year
I definitely wouldn't say it's the worst.
Would you be willing to say it's the worst anime adaptation to come out?
Yeah.
Like, at all?
Wait, period?
Well,
Period.
I can't say that. I haven't seen enough.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'll say this.
I've heard
this. I've watched a lot of Netflix original movies. So far, out of the 15 or 20 that I've seen, this is probably the worst one for me. And, you know, my opinion is, you know, a little skewed because I did watch the original, and the original's much better.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like,
yeah.
no matter how much we try to tell ourselves to not
Right,
compare,
like, it's
that's
always
just
gonna be
what's
skewed.
gonna happen.
That being said...
But I tried to be as objective as I could, and I really genuinely tried to watch this movie on its own. And, like, I sort of, like, the frame I used, the lens I was looking at this movie through was, if this was just a Netflix original movie, like any of the other ones, and this, like, got uploaded one day, and I wanted to watch it, would I... If I didn't have to watch it for, like, this podcast, like, would I have kept watching it? No, I wouldn't have. I would have probably cashed out as soon as the guy got his head split in half by the ladder.
I think especially for me, I watched it with my roommate Alex, and even he has never seen Death Note. So even coming in with a completely objective opinion, he also agreed that he thought it was pretty terrible.
Yeah, I don't think we can say, like, this is the worst movie that came out this year because we had a lot of garbage fires. in the theaters this year.
Well, see, like that was the biggest thing for me. That's why I wanted you guys to watch it, because obviously we can all agree it's not great. It's not even necessarily good.
Oh, it's
objectively. But my biggest problem that I've been having with the reception of this movie is just everybody's shitting on it because it's not like the anime, therefore it's the worst anime adaptation of all time, and it's the worst movie to come out.
I can't really think of any other like anime adaptations that have been Americanized like this. Like, am I forgetting?
Y'all remember the reaction to Dragon Ball Evolution?
Oh,
I've heard that was. I've never
where the director literally had to come out and write a formal apology for making the movie.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say I've had the pleasure of seeing that, but I have heard that it's delightfully terrible.
I just thought it was funny that
it was at a point where, right when it was coming out, my grandpa and I were talking. I was fairly young at the time, and my grandpa and I, we were... Well, he wasn't into Dragon Ball, but he pretended to be because he knew how interested I was in it. And even he, after watching the trailer, I was like, Grandpa, let's go see this, you know? And he's like, I think we should wait until it comes out on DVD. If I'm being perfectly honest with you,
I mean, he probably knew that movie would be coming out on DVD rather quickly.
Oh, yeah, it was insanely fast. I've seen it so many times to this day, and I love everything Dragon Ball. You know that. I am a fucking Dragon Ball fanboy by definition.
I know.
Oh, yeah. But there are no redeeming qualities to that movie.
Now, I have a question about that movie for you. Do you think that movie hits the level of so terrible it's good?
No.
No?
Oh,
no. Okay, no. It's just a garbage fire?
Yeah. Because what it did was the opposite of this movie. It tried to be an adaptation while also throwing new things in.
But it's a shonen. It's a super duper over the top shonen. Like, you can't live action.
It's a super duper over the top shonen, but let's make it live action. Let's make Goku from Dragon Ball, who's supposed to be like a kid. He's a fucking kid. Yeah. But in the movie, let's make him a high schooler.
And like a 30-year-old high schooler, because
like a 30-year-old fucking high schooler. Let's cast the guy from Shameless, which Shameless came out after, but it's literally it's the guy from Shameless. I don't remember the character's name, but it's like everybody who's watching Shameless who's seen that movie is like, I cannot take any scene with him seriously.
Oh no.
Like oh my god. And they were supposed to make 2 more. They were supposed to make one for every iteration of Dragon Ball.
LOL.
I'm so glad they didn't.
LOL.
But yeah, that, like I said earlier, that was just the point that I wanted to discuss mostly. Like, I'm glad we got our movie discussion out of the way.
Yeah.
I'm pissed with the over-the-top backlash that this movie is getting, because even though it's not necessarily good, it's not...
I'd say it's bad. You can say it's bad, Tyler. You can still like it.
No, I like it, but I don't think it's terrible. I'm saying it's like, for me, it's like meh. I'm not saying it's bad. Okay. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's in the middle for me, because
let's give it a ranking on a scale of 10, each of us.
10.
Okay, so Jacob, out of 10.
That's weird. Everybody's got their own number system.
Okay, why don't we make it smaller? 5. Make it out of 5.
Interestingly enough, I have actually thought about my rankings for both on a scale of 1 to 10 and 1 to 5.
Oh,
I'd give it a 1 out of 5.
I would give it a 2 out of 5. I think.
I'll give it a 3.
Ugh, yeah, because like a 2 to me is like okay, well, we're not gonna get into like, you know, this is my personal ranking system. Like, you know what I mean? So 2, 1, 3. We add that together. We divide it by what, 15?
Yeah.
Okay. So overall, that's I can't. 1 out of 5. I'm not a math major. This is a bad idea. I don't even know why I brought up. Why did I bring up
6 divided by 50? Boy, what the fuck are you talking about?
Boy, I'm eating this peach pie. It's not even that good. Oh, it's kind of...
Basically, with all of our ratings together, it would be below average.
0.4.
Okay. Well, it's not a great movie, but
yeah, no, it's not great. But taking in my personal enjoyment that I had with it, I'm not gonna say it's bad. I don't.
And you know what? Bad. At the end of the day, the most important thing, like, even if something is objectively terrible and it doesn't hit that point of being like famously bad, so bad it's good, like The Room or whatever, like, if you watch something, it made you feel something, and you enjoyed the time you spent watching it, then that's all that matters, you know?
The main thing I would say, I can't say that I'd necessarily recommend it to people to watch, but I would say that if you are interested in watching it, definitely go in. Don't expect it to be like the anime.
Right. Like if you're going in there
yourself up for
important thing.
Like I feel like the Netflix should put like a huge like disclaimer at the beginning.
Just
like no, I'm not even joking, because like I guarantee you, like a huge chunk of people who watch that movie either A, have seen Death Note before, or B, like watched Death Note prior to watching this movie, so they could like, you know.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I was gonna get into in terms of backlash.
But like, if you just come off watching Death Note and like the next thing you watch is this movie, I don't think it's that. I think it's understandable. I think it's very understandable. You know. Now the thing about Death Note is it's not insidious in the same way the Emoji Movie is. You know, like the Emoji Movie is like it's something more far-reaching. It has to do with like corporate movie making and just advertisements of movies and things like that.
Emoji Movie was made because emojis are popular.
Yes.
Death Note was a passion project.
I mean, at least I can respect that.
At least Death Note told a story, you know? It wasn't a great story, but at least there was a story. And I think, like, from a movie-going standpoint, I don't want to spend, I don't want to pay a subscription fee. I don't want to, like, pay a ticket price to watch a commercial or to watch an advertisement. I want to watch a story. And it hit the bare minimum. It has a story. It has a plot. At least has characters that I don't genuinely despise for every reason. Like, I genuinely despise Mia's character because...
Oh, Mia's terrible. Mia's fucking god-awful.
Actually, you know what? I know we're trying to, like, wrap up here, but I still baffles me. How many writers, like, who okayed that? Like, who wrote this character and was like, yeah, this seems good, relatable. This seems like...
Here's the headcanon, right? They wrote the entire script and they're like, shit, we forgot a fucking villain.
You know what they did? They wrote the whole script. They probably wrote the whole script and they forgot to put Mia in the story. And they're like, shit, we gotta put a female love interest in this.
Shit, we need a plot device for every scene right now!
Tits now! And then she just got thrown in there sideways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, no, fuck Mia. Honestly, for sure. Okay, two gripes with the movie. Pacing and Mia.
Alright, my gripes with the movie, everything.
No, that was just me joking. I wasn't trying to start a segment.
Okay. I thought, okay.
But I wanted to give a personal anecdote because I wanted the backlash to be the last point that we really got into because we're already at almost an hour and a half. I think that's a pretty good length. Backlash with the movie is everybody is going into it thinking it's an adaptation, which isn't their fault.
Right.
Yeah, because I thought it was an adaptation going in.
No, it's not their fault. That I agree that should be disclaimed. But, the day the movie came out, Twitter was just full of fucking, okay, why is this scene like this in the movie but it's like this in the anime? And, unless you were like keeping up with the production of it, you weren't gonna know that it wasn't an adaptation.
Right.
Like, it was one of the first things disclosed. But then again, it was also like it was one of the first things disclosed. If you missed it, you missed it. Other than that, all you're gonna hear is they're making a Death Note movie. But I wanted to tell a story. There's one person I got into a Twitter beef with somebody about the movie.
This is the real reason you made this podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's for fucking petty ass revenge. No,
I know it is.
Yeah, let's do this.
I wanted to talk about it. There's this one person. I'm not gonna name names, but if you're listening, and I doubt you are, fuck you.
Wow, good one, Tyler.
Alexis and I and our friend Trevor, we just finished watching the movie, and we knew that Twitter was full of fucking backlash, and we were feeling kind of frisky, so we tweeted out, we just watched the Death Note movie, and we liked it. And we had, we had genuinely good discussions like this, with a lot of level-headed people.
Right.
But then one of our... I'm not going to call her my friend because I don't like her. I don't like anything about her. But she tweets out, not even as a reply to our tweet, she tweets out, the Death Note movie on Netflix is fucking trash. All capitals. And I tweet back at her, I'm like, okay, well, why do you think so?
Right.
And, Twitter has an activity tab where you can see, what other people favorite. And because I use TweetDeck, it's always open. And I literally all day have been seeing her favorite tweets about why the Death Note movie was bad. So when she replies to my tweet about why it was bad, all of her tweets are word for word tweets that she's favorited. So
I mean, the thing is too, like, she could literally have just said, "I don't like it," and that would have been the end of it.
That would have been the end of it.
Right.
But it was the fact that she engaged in the discussion with me that turned it into an argument. Because that's immediately what we did. We called her out for it. Like, did you actually watch the movie, or have you just been on Twitter all day? And her response to that was, I guess some people just can't have their own opinion. Which is, I don't know, that's kind of telling for me.
I mean, it's okay to have your own opinion, but to be
course.
so very strongly worded about it, to say that
we disagreed on almost everything on this podcast, and we're still friends, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, no, not anymore.
Well, no, I don't think I can
gonna
associate myself with someone.
Yeah,
I'm gonna block you guys on Skype after this.
I mean,
actually,
I would hope so.
Actually, we set up this podcast to let you know that me and Jacob are cutting you out of the friend group.
We're divorcing you as a friend.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
We're canceling our subscription to this friendship.
But
Oh,
no,
Jesus.
I thought that was really funny
Yeah.
because obviously they didn't watch the movie,
Well,
and if they did, if they what? Sorry,
No.
I was just thinking that you were gonna be a decent enough person to not interrupt me again. Go ahead.
Okay, well. I mean. Okay. Yeah, Jacob,
yeah, okay.
Okay, well, all I was gonna say. Jacob,
what?
I hate you. All I was gonna say is my final parting thoughts on this movie are, I hope that I hope Hanzo Shimada's voice actor gets a lot more work.
Hell yeah.
Because I like him. That was it.
Jacob, what are your parting thoughts?
My parting thoughts are, I did just because I didn't like the movie, I would just like to get the message out that I don't think it's a trash movie at all. I don't think it's horrible, but I don't think it's good.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I think it's also, I said that was my parting thoughts, but I think it's important. No, I think it's important to have discussions like this because you need to be able to hold the people who are making media for you that you're indirectly paying for with Netflix subscriptions and stuff. You need to hold them to a higher standard. And when they focus group something like this, because I mean we don't know if that's for sure what happened, but I mean,
it really seems like it.
Yeah, and even if it wasn't, there's a lot of instances of that happening with movies.
Yeah.
We need to say hey, that doesn't work.
That's honestly can I just say my parting thoughts? I think we're thinking the same thing. That's what I was going to say.
Oh yeah, sure. Right.
My parting thoughts were going to be, I really hope that the directors in the studio behind this movie don't get discouraged by the criticism that it's not like the anime. I hope they actually get to see the criticism that is, hey, here's why your movie as a standalone project isn't good.
Right.
And that they get to work off of that. Because, like you were about to say, focus testing doesn't work. I hope Netflix gets to see the backlash from this movie, to see that this kind of shit doesn't work. And I hope that when they make Death Note 2, Escape to Africa, it's a better movie. Obviously, the Death Note fans are going to watch it because it's Death Note, so Netflix is going to be making money.
Yeah.
But, like you're about to say, we need to hold these people to a higher standard. I just hope it's a good movie.
Yeah, if a second movie comes out, I'm definitely going to watch it just because I feel like it deserves a fair chance.
Yeah. No, for sure. Especially because, with all the interviews that the people behind this movie have been doing, they all seem like really level-headed people. They don't have the god complex that the character they're writing has. It seems like they're willing to take criticism and fix their mistakes.
And the other thing, too, is I actually noticed, I didn't really know there was such negative, overwhelming backlash to this movie until you told me, because I'm subscribed to a couple different, news websites that update me when things get reviewed or whatever. So I was reading some of, the genuine, critical responses to it by, movie critics, whose job it is to review movies. And none of them said, oh, this movie's, irredeemable garbage, like the Emoji Movie or anything. They were just saying, this movie's very confused tonally, I don't really know, it kind of middled around with its plot. They were just bringing up, it wasn't, overwhelming, critical backlash. I think
a lot of the critical backlash comes from the people who have seen the anime.
Yeah.
Which
I'm just saying,
is a lot of people.
Yeah.
than most of the movie's audience.
But if you like look at the critics who, write articles about this and or the journalists for this type of thing, like I couldn't find a lot of evidence of them just being, no, this movie's just garbage.
Harsh.
Yeah, like they are honestly just bringing up genuine points like we did here, pacing, characters, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I think also speaks volumes for itself. Because like, you saw the critical response to the Emoji Movie, like, they were just like, man, this is as dark and bleak as everything else in 2017. Or someone, like a very accredited one, literally said, this made me go home and yell at my kids. You know what I mean? when you have like professional like people saying that about your movie, you've hit a problem. But that wasn't the case with this. And I think it's unfair to say it's the worst movie that came out. But I also think it was a bad movie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, I don't think it was terrible. I think it was terrible.
Yeah. But, and like you shouldn't have to fucking change your opinion to match the public. Like,
oh right,
we all think of this movie. Nick, you think it's terrible. Jacob, you don't think it's terrible, but you think it's bad. And I don't think it's good, but I don't think it's bad. We all have different opinions.
We're like a totem pole.
That's
like,
normal.
Like
that's
I was like the middle. Jacob's like the second to bottom, and I'm the last one.
You're literally rock bottom. I feel like I have to talk to you like this.
Oh, that's an old one.
Yeah, that's an old one. Man, I miss SpongeBob. When is SpongeBob going to get a live-action movie?
There's a goth character in SpongeBob! There's a goth fish!
I was about to say, with the hot emo girlfriend!
Oh my god. No, I'm not even joking. There's literally a goth fish called Nocturna, and she's in SpongeBob, and she's real.
Oh, like, fucking yeah. Like, finally, they're appealing to me. I've been there for so long. This is what we've deserved.
What I've always wanted.
I think we had like 4 separate parting thought sections. We're like, let's rate this movie. Like, let's have a review. Like, what do you honestly think? Like, we've done it like 5 times.
Rank the movie.
Well, it's just we keep like
other shit.
Yeah, because we keep trailing off, which honestly, that's what I wanted this podcast to be. But we all are just fresh from watching this movie. It was kind of hard to trail off.
Yeah.
So we'll make the next episode like, what do we think about the certain brand of dish soap, and try to make that go for 2 hours.
Yeah. We'll try to, because this was a more serious one, and I didn't expect this to be like a serious thing. I don't really want it to be.
I had fun with it though. Did you guys have fun?
Oh yeah, definitely,
for sure.
Definitely.
I love spouting my opinions for people to hear. Like,
all right, cool. Well then, in that case, that's the podcast.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Unsubscribe from my channel. I hate my fans.